Georgia and Alabama in the SEC championship game, 4 Eastern, CBS, Mercedes-Benz Stadium. We will be in the building for this one. Wasn't sure exactly how it was going to work out. Wasn't sure if we would be there. We wouldn't be there. We are going to be at Mercedes-Benz for this game. Fired up for it. Cannot wait to watch this one because it will be a clash of the Titans. 2 heavyweights going at it. For Georgia, a lot of talk about the three-peat and last year's team and Kirby Smart versus Nick Saban. Like, to be real, in Athens right now, I feel like they think pressure is privilege, because it is. Pressure is privilege, and they want to go after 3rd in a row, and all that is exactly what they have signed up for. If you've gone to Georgia, if you've signed out of high school or gone via the transfer portal, you signed up for a game like this. But pressure is privilege. That's true. Also, they're just in hunting mode. Like, they're not thinking about going for a 3rd in a row. They're not thinking about Kirby Smart versus Nick Saban. They're not thinking about Alabama. They're thinking about how do we get ourselves in position here to win this game and go forward. They're not thinking about the target on their back. It is Georgia versus everybody in that locker room. That's all they're thinking about, okay? So, yes, there's pressure on this game, but I don't think that this is a team or a locker room that feels like they've inherited anything. I think they're just looking to make their own mark and make their own legacy. In a game like this is where it starts. Now, Alabama, if you want to be the man, it's tale as old as time, man. You got to beat the man. And right now, Georgia is the man in the SEC. And you don't need to, if you're Alabama, do anything superhuman or supernatural to win this ball game. That's the reality. I think you have to have your best game. I think that's true. But it doesn't take anything that you don't have on your roster to win this game. So for Alabama, can you execute to the nth degree? Can you clean up what happened last week? Can you create some sense of urgency from what happened last week and make good on it in the SEC title game? I'm excited to see it because if it's anything like we expect it to be from a Nick Saban coached football team, I think they will have the screws tightened a fair amount when it comes to this matchup. Speaking of matchups, there's one big one I'm watching, and it is Jalen Milroe, the Houdini artist that is Jalen Milroe, against the team speed of this Georgia defense. Now, to be clear, this will be the toughest test for both sides of this matchup. For Jalen Milroe, he has not seen a defense like Georgia all season long. For Georgia, they played some good quarterbacks. They played some good athletes playing quarterback as well, and Peyton Thorne, Haynes King last week from Georgia Tech. They've had some success on the ground. They will not be anywhere near the caliber of what Jalen Milroe is bringing to the table in Atlanta. And so for Georgia, there's going to be 2 scenarios in which you have to stop Jalen Milroe. And it's not going to look the same as it has from the other games where you played Auburn and you played Georgia Tech. I'm just saying schematically, the run game might look a little bit different. But there's going to be 2 scenarios you have to stop Jalen Milroe. The first is quarterback design run. Meaning, hey, we draw it up for number 4. We're going to the right the whole way. We got a tight end coming around. We got a lineman pulling. We are blocking for 4. We are putting the ball in his hands. He's getting north and south. That's one way. The other way is it's 3rd down. We got a free blitzer. We got a chance to sack Jalen Milroe. Wouldn't you know, his spidey senses kick in. He makes you miss. He's out on the perimeter. New ball game. New play, at least, within that game. As Joel Klatt would say, he goes above the X's and O's. At that point, what happens? The way that I feel in this game, I would be wildly surprised if a Kirby Smart, Glenn Schumann, Will Muschamp coach defense, given the data they have on quarterback design runs, again, it'll look different, but what they have so far on quarterback design runs, if they don't correct it in a game like this. I think Kirby Smart, when he sets out a mission before his football team, he is the best in the country at getting them prepared to execute and handle that mission. So all that's to say, I don't think quarterback design run will be quite as much of a problem as we've seen it be for Georgia at different points from the Auburn game and the Georgia Tech game. The thing that I think is most interesting here is Alabama and Jalen Milroe when we get to that new play kind of scenario that I just explained a second ago. So if Georgia can minimize that and you take away the legs of Jalen Milroe, well, then you force Alabama to use a basketball term here, play left-handed. Not that they can't still beat you, but you put more pressure on the skill set of Jalen Milroe that maybe isn't quite as dangerous. The thing that scares you the most about Jalen Milroe would be minimized in that situation. Now, for Alabama, let me be very clear. I want to clear my voice before I say this. There's a path to victory for Alabama where Georgia has the right scheme in place and they have the right coverage in place And strategically throughout the week, they have done everything right. But Jalen Milroe wakes up that morning on Saturday in Atlanta in the hotel, goes to his suitcase or his travel bag, whatever he brought on the trip, and pulls out the red cape with the S on it, puts it on, goes to Atlanta, or goes to the game rather, just goes Superman mode. That is a possibility. With players like Jalen Milroe, when he tucks the ball and runs, he is one of the best ball carriers in the country. I did not say he is one of the best quarterbacks running the football. I did not say he's one of the best running quarterbacks. I did not say he is, one of the best playmakers. He is one of the best ball carriers when he tucks in and runs. Okay, that is 100% true. He has the ability to take over this game. We've seen him do it at times, but one thing it's going to take from him is, one, his best game, and we already said that at the top of this. The second part of that is he's going to need to be decisive. Like Jalen Milroe has it in the tank. Again, it doesn't take anything superhuman from him, even though I said he can be Superman. It won't take something we haven't seen from him before, but it will take some decisiveness from him getting downhill. I think against Auburn, you saw some plays where he wanted to push the ball downfield with his arm. You saw him get out of the pocket, and a couple of times he'd be past the line of scrimmage and he throws the football. It's got to be, hey, I see a lane. I don't know how many of these I'm going to get. I'm putting my foot in the ground. I'm going north and south, and I'm gashing this defense. He can do that. There's going to be a couple plays where I think that's on the table for him. Him taking advantage of that, though, is going to be critical. Now, on top of this, Alabama's weapons have got to separate. Because for Georgia, they're going to play a lot of man coverage, and depending on the success of Jalen Milroe running the football and when those plays break down, if he's able to get on the perimeter and he's able to have some success, at that point in time, that Georgia secondary is going to start looking over their shoulder whenever they hear that volume of the crowd amp up a little bit and say, oh no, number 4 is running the ball again. And then when they turn around and you lose track of Isaiah Bond or Jermaine Burton or whoever you want to talk about there, that's when the big plays could really happen. Like Alabama has got to separate to some degree in those ad-lib kind of plays to be able to win this football game. Because in the just standard base pass plays that Alabama has, you got to separate there as well, but I don't feel as confident. I like Georgia's matchup in the secondary there against Alabama's weapons. You got to find a way to get those plays within the margins of some broken plays if you want to win this game, if you're Alabama. Now, offensively for Georgia, Mike Bobo, man, he's been in his Duffy all year long. We've seen pre-snap window dressing. We've seen shifts. We've seen motions. We've seen him dial it up for different players. We've seen him scheme Brock Bowers open. And scheming your best player on the field open, I think, is worth something because everybody and their mama knows you want to get it to him. The window dressing of Georgia offensively with the pre-snap movement, expect a lot of that for a couple of reasons. One, I think Alabama struggled with that last weekend against Auburn. Now, granted, there was more concern with Peyton Thorne running the football and him, getting around the edge on you. So you probably consider that in this spot. I don't think it'll be quite the same impact, but if I'm Mike Bobo, I test that. Because what I think they want to do is window dress and have some jet sweep looks and try and attack the perimeter. Just get this Alabama defense, especially those linebackers, off balance. Because if you can get them off balance, two things happen. One, you're able to then, I think, run the football how you want to run the football. And as balanced as Georgia has been, I think that's who they want to be, is pounding the rock, hammering away. Dejan Edwards, Kendall Milton, I think that's what they would like to do. Second part of that is it allows for Carson Beck to kind of stay ahead of this whole game. And what I mean by stay ahead of this game, whenever you're off balance and you're a defense, you're trying to guess at what's going to happen next, those throws for Carson Beck become a lot easier because your receiver is a step ahead of that linebacker or that safety or that corner, whoever you want to talk about there. You're a step ahead, throws are easier, more space to throw to, good things are happening. Okay. And when the game is easier for Carson Beck, there's going to be more success for Georgia. Pretty straightforward there. Now, the other thing to watch here when it comes to Carson Beck, what happens on 3rd and 7-ish? Because I think at some point in the game, there will be situations where Bama is able to kind of, I don't know if totally stop the run is the word. They might do it, I suppose, but I think you'll have some spots where Alabama bows up, gets a stop on 1st and 2nd, and forces you into 3rd and passing. And so with this game for Georgia, there's going to be a lot of man coverage for Bama. Just like there was for Georgia, going to be a lot of man coverage for Alabama. And in this spot now, it's going to be extra critical for Carson Beck to throw to the right spot. Like if we got someone running with us stride for stride in phase, we got to put it on the back shoulder. If we got someone playing in that hip pocket, we got to put some touch on it, put it right over the other shoulder to Brock Bowers or Dylan Bell, whoever you want to talk about. Like there has to be elite accuracy in this spot. And if he can place the football on those 3rd and 7s, I don't know how you stop Georgia. Because at that point, you have answers in 3rd and long. I think you have success running the football. I think Alabama's guessing defensively. That's where things get really interesting. Now, a matchup to watch within this, I just mentioned Brock Bowers. Those Alabama safeties can play some ball now. Malachi Moore is a stud. Caleb Downs is a first-round draft pick waiting to happen for Alabama. It's no secret he's I think he's going to be one of the best of all time when it's all said and done in Tuscaloosa with what he does right now playing safety for them. Georgia's offense is so efficient on 3rd down. 57% conversion rate right now, number 1 in the country. Okay? Don't think it's any coincidence that Carson Beck is extremely efficient. 72% of his passes are completed. That's really good. He's got a top 10 QBR in the country. When it comes to our pick in this game, I think if you were to play this game 100 times, there would be a pretty even split between these two. I think to ultimately give you our feel in this one, again, Jalen Milroe, he could just put the cape on and say, this is my day, I'm winning the game. That's how it goes. Very, very possible. But when I look at what we've seen to this point in the year from both these teams, I think it would take a greater malfunction from Georgia in this spot, something we haven't really seen from them to this point in the year, than it would take from what we've seen from Alabama. Like we've seen Alabama have issues second half against Arkansas, last week against Auburn, the Texas game. Like we've seen Alabama show some mortality at times. And I think Georgia, just by nature of what we haven't seen from them, is why I like them to win this game. I think this is a tremendous, tremendous game to watch. I think the entertainment product is through the roof. I think Georgia ends up winning this game by a touchdown. So if you want to say we're taking Georgia to cover, we're taking Georgia to cover. We like them 34-27. And if Georgia wins this football game, this is Kirby Smart's best coaching job. Because think about all the things that have changed in the last couple of years and the sustained success. New OC. You lost Dan Lanning as one of your DCs. New quarterback. 80th returning production in the country. Like that at that point is Kirby Smart's system starting to run itself. You still got to push the standard forward, but it goes back to Georgia, I think, having arrived. And if they hadn't already arrived as back-to-back national champs, winning the SEC this year and beating this Alabama team, I think would serve as that statement, that flag being planted in the ground of Georgia arriving at the spot where I think we have seen Alabama be at in those early 2000s. So again, we're taking Georgia to win. I think they are your SEC champs, and they will obviously, in that way, finish as an undefeated SEC champ and lock up a college football playoff spot. And then that way, I think probably take some pressure off the good folks at the committee. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.